Now that we have created this sci-fi crate using Boolean and bevel modifiers in combination to achieve this kind of hard surface result, we can use these techniques to move on and create the whole room, the whole sci-fi corridor or spaceship corridor or whatever you want to call it. So now I want to hide this. I don't want this to get in the way. So let's just deactivate the assets collection. But don't forget to click the collection here so we are not accidentally creating objects in the hidden collection. And now I want to reset the cursor, so press Shift S and cursor to world origin, and we can start by adding a plane. So let's press Shift A and add a plane, and I want to scale this 4 times as usual for my diorama scenes. So S4, enter. And now we want to extrude the walls, so let's go to the edge select by pressing 2. Select this edge and shift click this one too, so we can extrude them, and let's press easy and let's enter 5. So this will serve as a template for our room. And now I want to extrude this outside so it has some volume. So let's press A to select all and Alt E and extrude faces along normals, and we will enter 0.3 and minus. We want to extrude this outside, and let's press S additionally. You will see the difference. We want the even scaling there, so let's press S, and you can see on the top left corner that there's an even thickness on and off. And now I will press enter. And the last thing I want to do here, since we extrude it in the negative direction, it's possible that the normals are flipped inside, so let's select all by pressing A and Shift N to recalculate normals. And right now we have our room ready, and we can start creating some details. While in the edge select, let's select these 2 edges on the top here, and let's press Shift D to duplicate them, enter. And now we can press P to separate and confirm the selection. So we just now duplicated these edges and separated them into a new object. So if we tab out now, we can select the new object here. And as you maybe already know, this is a way how I reuse geometry all the time. So let's now go into the edit mode of this new object. Let's select all by pressing A. Let's rotate this a little bit and we'll extrude this down. I want to create some kind of a ceiling supporting structure or ceiling panels. And let's press E then Z and extrude this down, something like this. And I will confirm it here. I don't want to give you like the exact numbers here. We'll try to eyeball it. Sometimes the precision might be important, like when we created the room and stuff like that for the proportions. But here I want to find your own sense for proportion. So try to repeat what you see here and try to, you know, find that sweet spot when you're interactively resizing or scaling objects or extruding them. And now we'll press A and Alt E to extrude faces along normals. But be careful to enable even thickness again. So I will press S to enable even thickness. That might get ugly if we didn't do that. So something like this here, and we can help ourselves again by holding Shift. And now I want to select these bottom edges. So select these 2 and press G then Z and move this up to create some kind of a slope like that. And now I want to select these top, so click here and shift click this edge, and we will press Ctrl B for bevel and bevel this. I think 6 or 5 segments will be fine. Let's do 5 and do a bevel like that. And now let's switch to the face select by pressing 3, select these 2 edges, and let's press I for inset. And again, we can hold Shift for more granular control over that, and Alt E and extrude faces along normals. And again, don't forget to press S for even thickness. And let's extrude this inside like this. Okay, and now we can right click and shade smooth and go to the object data properties, normal section, and enable auto smooth. And this would work fine if you want to have these kind of sharp edges, but it's really hard to see the geometry like this. And I want to add that bevel modifier for those better refined smooth edges there. So first of all, we can move this all the way to 180 degrees. So we give Blender, or rather the bevel modifier, the full control over the shading and the normals. And now we can go to the modifier and add the bevel. So let's zoom in a little bit, and we can enable the wireframe overlay. So remember, you can use that quick menu to enable the wireframe or some custom key if you have it mapped. And now I want to switch this limit method to angle. So we are limiting this only to really sharp edges there. And we want to modify the amount, but to really see what we are going, remember, we need to disable the overlap clamping. So now we actually see what amount is set there, and now we can hold shift and drag this down to set some edge amount that we like. And now just increase the segments to 2, so we have better refined edges and those nice supporting loops on the sides. And now the one last step is to go to shading and enable harden normals. And if we now disable wireframe overlay, this is much nicer object. We can better see these edges, we can better see that inset there, because the light is bouncing off differently than it would when you have only those sharp edges. So this is what we wanted to achieve. Maybe the bevel is too strong, so let's try to reduce that a little bit. Maybe something like this. You know, you can always come back and play with it. That's the beauty of the non-destructive workflow and the Boolean workflows. You can always go back and tweak those modifiers later. So now I want to give the supporting structure, the ceiling structure, some pillars. And first of all, we need to move the cursor here on the side. So shift right click here, and let's press shift A and add a plane. And now we can look from the top. And going to the edit mode and scale this down, we can toggle the X-ray, so hold Z and toggle X-ray. And let's scale this down to something like this. And I want this backside to go over the wall here. We can see the wall ends here. So let's do something like this here. And now I want to scale this on the Y-axis. So scale this like that. Okay, and we can now switch to the front view by pressing 1 on the numpad and press E and extrude this up. And I want to go over the wall here as well. So this is a base for our pillar. We can now tab out, toggle the X-ray again, and I want to leave a little bit of this inset here. So let's press G, then Y, and move this to the side. So this will serve as a base for our pillar, and now we can look from the front again, go into the edit mode, and let's create the new cut here. I will press Ctrl R and cut here in the middle and move this up to a little bit over the 2/3 of that pillar. And now we can press Ctrl B and bevel this with only 2 segments. So we are creating a little bit more geometry. I want to have 2 loops there. And of course, you could create those loops manually with just Ctrl R, so whatever works best for you. And now we can toggle the X-ray again, go to the vertex select by pressing 1 and select these vertices, press G then X and move this up until the half of the pillar, maybe like that. Let's rotate this a little bit, toggle the X-ray. And now we can go back to the edge select by pressing 2, alt click the loop here and shift alt click here. So we have both of those loops selected, and let's press Ctrl B and bevel those like that. And I want to add some more segments, at least 5. But be careful not to hit this inset here, this wall structure, and you will see why in a second. Now we can tab out and actually right click and shade is smooth. We could easily separately bevel this object, but I want it to look like it's connected to this structure here, and I want to look it like it's welded here. So it's not just going through that object, but it's actually part of the ceiling object. So what we can do is use Boolean here, and that bevel we have already in place. So right now we can just shift click here and press Ctrl plus to create the union Boolean operation. And the one last thing to do here is to drag this over the bevel so it hits the pillar as well. But as you can see, this is not working as we expected. And most of the times when something like this happens, it's either some problem with the geometry, so maybe you extruded something twice and released before extruding, so there are double vertices there, or, and that's like 80% of the times, there might be some problem with normals, and that's very likely because, as you can remember, we created this ceiling structure just from two edges. The moment we created that first plane, the Blender didn't know where to orient the normals, so they might be pointing inwards, outwards, and you can easily check that by going into the edit mode and enabling the normals overlay. And right here you can see the normals on the pillar here are perfectly visible, but here on the ceiling structure we see absolutely nothing. So if we press A to select all and Shift N to consolidate normals, we can right now see the normals appeared. If we go back one step and I will enable X-ray, you can see the normals are there, but they're pointing inside, and that causes that problem with the Boolean modifier and a lot of shading problems as well. So be careful about this. And now if we press Shift N, the normals are fixed, and if we tab out and look closer here, this is now working correctly. It's welded here, but I don't like this bevel geometry there. So one last step to do here is to fix that bevel and switch that miter to arc like we did before with the crate, and you can see this looks much better now. And we have those nice welded beveled edges there, and it looks like one object. So again, booleans are a great way how to quickly and easily create complex structures like this. Now I want to create some pillars on the other wall on the other side as well. So let's just select this bounce object, the boolean object. Let's look from the top by pressing 7 on the numpad, and we'll press Alt D to create a linked duplicate here, and press G to move it in place. And we'll need to rotate this 90 degrees on the Z axis, so we can press R, Z, and minus 90 degrees, and we can check the rotation is rotated correctly. So we can go back to the top view and try to eyeball the similar position that the pillar has on the other side as well. So I guess it's something like this. Okay, and now we can create another one. So Alt D again, let's press X and move this here to approximately 2/3 of that wall. And this way I want to create two pillars here, so there's a space for the door between them. And now we can just shift click both of those to select them, shift select the final ceiling structure, and let's press Ctrl+. So we are adding two new Boolean modifiers here. Let's collapse this. And the easiest way to fix the stack right now is to just select the bevel modifier and drag it under these booleans here. And you will see it looks exactly like on the other side here. It looks nice and welded there. And now it's maybe time to play with that bevel modifier a little bit to try to find the amount that works with this kind of geometry here. But I think we nailed it the first time, so I will leave it like this. And this is our ceiling support with some ambient lighting prepared and some pillars. And now I want to create some kind of tiling or facing on the wall there, so it has a little bit of more structure, a little bit of more interest there. So again, what we can do is to reuse some of that wall geometry. So let's select the room object, tab in, and let's press 3 for face select and select these two faces here. And you can see we'll have the normals visible here. So let's tidy this up a little bit and let's disable those normals. And right here I can see we have still the individual origins enabled from the chapter before. So I will switch this to median point just so we have some default settings in place and nothing surprises us. And now with those two faces selected, we can press Shift D to duplicate them and P and enter to separate. And this way we can tab out, select the new object, and we have some new wall planes. Now we can tab in and go to the edge select by pressing 2 and select these two edges. Let's rotate a little bit and we can slide them down up until here maybe. So let's press G twice so we enable edge slide, and let's hold Shift so we can adjust this a little bit better, and let's place these edges somewhere here. And now we can loop cut this in the middle twice. So I will press Ctrl R and do 2 cuts here. So these are the tiles I want to have in place. And right click to release. And now I will press Ctrl B and bevel this a little bit, but not with 6 segments, but let's reduce with the mouse wheel to just 1. And let's do a little bevel like that, like you see on the top. Approximately the same distance here. And again, we can help with Shift and confirm with the left mouse button. And now I'll press X and delete faces here. Now we can just select all, and let's press Alt E and extrude these along normals. Something like this. Okay, let's check the thickness here. I think this looks quite alright. We can maybe repeat this so we have a better view of what we are doing. So Alt E again, and I will extrude these along normals. And again, don't forget to enable even thickness. So press S and extrude this like that. Now we can tab out, but I can see this pillar is not that deep. I want it to go a little bit more outside. So I want to take a second to fix this pillar a little bit. Let's go into the edit mode. 3 on a numpad for side view. 3 for face select. And I will just drag a selection around those faces. Like that. We should be able to hit all of those. And I will just press G then X and move this outside a little bit. So we have a little bit more space there, like that. And as you can see, since these were link duplicates, by fixing one, we fixed all of them. And now just go back to this wall tiling, and we can easily make this fit the scene by transferring the modifiers from the ceiling structure and the pillars to this wall object. Let's first right click and shade is smooth and go to object data properties. We can't transfer those settings, so we'll have to set this manually, enable auto smooth and go to the 180 degrees. And now we can just shift select this wall structure and press Ctrl L and link modifiers. This way we transferred the bevel modifier, but at the same time we transferred those Boolean modifiers as well. That's why these pillars are now duplicated. So select this once again, go to the modifier settings, and we can do several things here. But one thing we can do, we can just switch this from union to difference and do this for all of these pillar Boolean modifiers, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want these tiles to look like they end where the pillars start and be like cut in the middle by the pillar. So this way with just one command, we transferred all of the modifiers and just switched from union to difference. And now if we disable the wireframe overlay, this is exactly what we wanted to have in the scene. We have those nice bevels. We have those nice welded edges there with the pillars, and you can see the pillars actually interrupt this tiling here, and it all looks natural. Here you can see how this procedural modifier workflow really helps you to create these quick prototypes.